President Biden has said that he intends to announce his Supreme Court nominee to succeed Justice Stephen Breyer by the end of February. It's about a week away, folks. And before he's even announced his pick, we're getting new details of the likely confirmation timeline. The chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dick Durbin, said this week that he wants Biden's nominee to be confirmed before the Easter recess on April 9th. In the time between then and now, which is about 7 weeks, it seems like Biden will be wooing both Democrats and Republicans. You heard me, Republicans too, to support his nominee. Politico reports that Biden is, quote, actively looking for Republican support for his Supreme Court nominee, but he's doing it cautiously, wary of setting expectations that end in failure. For more on this, Maya Wiley is back with us, and we are joined by Mark Joseph Stern, who covers the courts as a staff writer for Slate. Welcome back, Maya, and welcome, Mark. So, Mark, what can you tell us about the behind-the-scenes deliberations at this point as Biden is sort of considering this nominee, and when can we expect to hear her name?
So we know that Biden really wants to get at least a few Republican senators on board. And that is one reason why I think Ketanji Brown Jackson is an appealing candidate for the White House. When she was confirmed to the D.C. circuit less than a year ago, she got 3 Republican votes. It would be rather odd for those 3 Republicans to turn around now and say that they made a mistake, that she doesn't deserve a promotion. And so what it appears to be happening at the White House is, let's try to back channel to these senators who are on the fence or potentially more moderate, like Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, those who have some institutional stake in bipartisan confirmations like Lindsey Graham. Let's feel them out and see how far we can push them toward getting to yes. And then we'll release the name and we'll continue the fight behind the scenes. All of this is still relatively quiet. There's a lot about it that we don't know, but it's very obvious that Biden does not want this to be a party line vote. He really wants to be able to boast that he got a bipartisan consensus nominee onto the Supreme Court, in stark contrast to Amy Coney Barrett, who was the first justice to be confirmed on a party line vote in about 150 years.
So, Maya, in light of the possible kumbaya that Mark is kind of talking about, Republicans and Democrats coming together over a Supreme Court nominee, who knew, right? Do you expect an ugly confirmation battle, or since the makeup of the court will not be affected by this at much, do you think the Republicans will allow the nominee to be confirmed without their support?
It will be interesting to see, Michael, and I'm not going to pretend I can read these tea leaves. Sadly, we have seen attacks on the president because he has promised to nominate a black woman, as if by definition that meant that the black women he was looking at were not qualified. Given the list that we've seen, that is patently false. It is a powerhouse list of highly qualified lawyers. But at the same time, to your point, and there's simply not a whole lot of reason for Republicans to be on the wrong side of history. One, because the president has made and suggested a list of very qualified people. Secondly, to your point, because it doesn't change the balance of the court. And it does, in an election year, benefit Republicans as well, to show that they're not only the party of the no, but the party of no black people. It's not really a great look when you're running for office. And I would hope that it's one that the Republican Party, in stating that it is the party of Lincoln, remembers that history and tradition.
Yeah, okay, so we'll work on that party of Lincoln thing. So, Mark, regarding the president's hunt for that Republican support, Politico is reporting that officials are wary that GOP votes will ever really materialize, and there's also some frustration over the lobbying campaign for one potential nominee. That is a reference to South Carolina's Senator Lindsey Graham and Congressman Jim Clyburn, who are pushing Biden to nominate South Carolina Circuit Court Judge Michelle Childs. Now, what can you tell us about that lobbying campaign, and do you expect any Republicans to eventually support a Biden nominee if it's not Judge Childs?
So both Clyburn and Graham are obviously pushing very hard for this judge, but they have different reasons for doing so. For Clyburn, this is a kind of quintessential patronage pick. The two go back a long time. Clyburn has a lot of power and believes she's the right person for the job. Fair enough. That's why he's pushing. For Graham, it seems to be that Childs is the most moderate, the most centrist of the folks on the short list right now. She has a history of ruling against criminal defendants, of ruling against civil liberties, of ruling in favor of management, against labor. I'm not saying that all of this should disqualify her. I'm not even saying that she's biased, but I think Lindsey Graham looks at that record and he says, okay, this is someone I can work with and maybe someone who will go over to the conservative side from time to time. And he's setting this up quite nicely for himself, because if Biden ends up nominating Ketanji Brown Jackson or Leandra Kruger or someone else, Lindsey Graham now has the option of saying, well, I'm not going to support that individual, but I already showed I was willing to be a compromiser. I already proved that I was willing to be bipartisan. I said I'd vote for Michelle Childs, but unfortunately, the White House did not heed my call. So I think there's some savvy politicking going on here, but I don't think it's working on Joe Biden. It appears that the White House has gotten Clyburn to back off a bit and admit that this is not an ultimatum, that he would be happy with other candidates. And I don't think that Biden is going to pick Childs simply because Lindsey Graham has made a promise that he would vote for her. We all know what Lindsey Graham's promises are good for, and it just isn't very much.
So, Maya, in the minute we've got left, Mark sort of alludes to the very thin Democratic majority that exists in the Senate right now. That fact was made clear when 49-year-old Democratic Senator Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico suffered a stroke late last month. Last week, he released a video to say that he's doing well, and we're very happy to hear that, and expects to make a full recovery. He added this, watch.
And I'll be back on the floor of the United States Senate in just a few short weeks to vote on important legislation and to consider a Supreme Court nominee.
So we got about 30 seconds left. What do you make of that moment for the Democrats? How thin is this edge for them, and can they survive it?
It's very thin, and they can survive it. And that's why you heard the senator saying he will be there, because they'll need his vote. And it also goes to Mark's point about Judge Brown, Ketanji Brown, because she got also Senator's Manchin and Sinema's vote when she was up to the D.C. Circuit. Those things will matter.
Maya Wiley and Mark Joseph Stern, thank you both very, very much. Really appreciate it. So coming up, let's make a deal. Why federal prosecutors might want to think twice before offering lighter sentences to January 6th defendants. An outrage in Texas as the Republican lieutenant governor's political campaign tries to delay thousands of requests for mail-in ballots. More Amen next.